We are lucky enough to work across a massive cross-sectional area of the Australian industrial sector. We work in snow, we work in brewing, we work in machine guarding, we do a lot of off-grid large battery installations. So it's exciting for us to be involved with so many different industries, and it keeps us at the forefront of technology. Deacam offers the craft brewing industry a number of services. We are very strong for machine breakdown for them. They have a lot of varied machines as part of the brewing process. We also get involved with their automation solutions, and we help them plan for the future to make sure they can keep up with their growth.
Well, the brewery started about 12 years ago, really, just a small tin shed on this site. That was all we could really afford to do at the time, so we managed to cram all of our brewing equipment into a little tin shed. We had this nice beer garden just outside, I guess over the years we've grown to include this restaurant and bar. We've increased the brewery size as well, and then just in the last 12 months we've expanded to a new site up the road from this one, which will allow us to substantially increase our production volumes for our beers.
Bright is unique in we were able to capture the entire project. So we were able to use our new Thermocraft system to its full extent, which means we were able to control the entire process of the brew platform and also the fermentation control. We're able to control the delivery of beer from Bright beer tanks and capture the whole flow of the production of beer. Thermocraft started out as a response from Deacam to a number of craft brewers that were just outgrowing their existing temperature control system.
Deacam installed a system called Thermocraft. Thermocraft allows us to plug all our pieces of equipment from the brew house at the new location into a system that we can therefore control all the elements of that brew house remotely. Everything from valves, temperatures, flow rates, etc., which basically gives us a greater deal of flexibility operating something in the space that we have.
Normally with a traditional installation of this kind, cables and cable trays would need to be run to pretty much every single vessel that we have. With the Thermocraft install, we're using a new type of cabling where we're able to splice in and out. This means that one cable can pretty much run around the whole brewery, and we can add in these gateways and power supply wherever we need it. There's no junctions or terminals. It is a case of like splicing into the cable and we're good to go.
So what Deacam have done for us with our new production facility is they've really taken control of the automation and control systems for that system. So we've, with the brew house that we've purchased from Canada, from DME in Canada, Deacam have pretty much replaced the automation and control systems that brewery would normally come with, and we're using the Deacam system to do that. The fantastic ability for us with that is that it allows us to integrate other components of the production facility into that system. Gives us a lot more flexibility. We've got a local contractor that we can depend on and that we can work with for those changes.
Because of the recipes that can be set up in the automation, every time Thermocraft runs a ferment control for a particular beer against a particular recipe, it is exactly the same as how it was done previously. So when brewers were running with standard temperature controllers, they would never actually get the exact same performance because there would be changes in the external weather, there would be changes in the hysteresis of the tanks, there would be changes in the way the brewer can control the temperature. In other words, he might need to set a change in temperature in the middle of the evening. Now, the automation can do that, it doesn't care what time of the day it is, but sometimes for brewers it means they're either asleep or they've got other commitments and they may extend that period by sometimes 6 or 12 hours, where the ferment control out of Thermocraft does it exactly the same every time.
The Deacam system makes it a lot easier for us to keep an eye on what's going on. It logs all of the processes that we're going through, and for each of the brews, so we can actually look at each brew, what the fermentation profile looked like for it, what the times that for each of the brewing process were, what temperatures were, so that if there are any variations we can go back and look at those logs and see what actually happened in that process. Well, I guess the benefits are that we've got somebody local that we can work with to tweak those designs the way that suits our processes. Another benefit down the track we see as being the ability to integrate it with other aspects of the brewery. So, for example, if we put solar system on the roof of the brewery, then potentially we can look at prioritising high electrical demand processes to coincide with power input from that solar system.
During this project, Deacam have been fantastic to work with. Through great communication, advice, and even last minute advice on the latest products, just so that we get the best install. Ongoing support regardless of the time of day. It's just been a fantastic to work with people who share our sort of business goals and understand our project, and even suggest ideas that help take the project to the next level.
The response from Bright has been fantastic. They are superb guys to work with. They understand their place in the craft brewing industry, particularly in Australia and also in that region. They also know how critical it is to have proper planning in place so that the growth can be supported. But the real critical thing for Firmacraft and Bright is by using the latest technology in IO-Link and Profinet systems, which are industrial heavy grade in communication protocols. We've now enabled Bright to continue their growth without major infrastructure investment. That means more tanks go in, they simply get plugged in. They don't need to be plugged in by electricians, they can be done by standard off-the-shelf IO-Link plug sets. And that means that going forward we don't have these huge bird cages of wiring, we don't have massive control panels. By getting it right at the start and relying on modern industrial practices, we've now enabled Bright to grow exponentially without any real stress as far as fitting the extra wiring is concerned.
So one of the biggest benefits for Firmacraft in the project that we've worked on is its scalability. The project for us has started small because we're not sure what the demand will be in the market for our product. So what we've done is use technologies that Deacam have installed for us to ensure that once we do grow, the further installation of fermentation vessels and additional chilling equipment or packaging lines, etc., will be much quicker and easier and at a lower cost for us to implement into the business.
For existing craft breweries and new ones about to start up, I think it's important for them to understand that they may be incredibly successful, which means what they're doing now may actually not fit in even 2 years' time. They may outgrow it. So it's important for craft breweries really to think about growth planning, and also what we're trying to educate brewers in is don't consider the end of the brewery to be the stainless steel. The real complexity comes in, and the way that a brewery can run smoothly comes down to the automation. We often have conversations talking about, oh, I've got my stainless tanks, I'm going to worry about the control of them later. And we're trying to educate craft brewers to say, you need to worry about that now. You need to understand how we're going to control this, because uniquely, that is the one thing that will make your brew kit better than the next one, or will allow your brew kit to grow as you grow without any major headaches. It's all about the control.
Working with Deacam it's been an absolute pleasure. Right from day one, from the very first design consultation about what Firmacraft could do, all the way through to where we are now, where we're currently developing and designing Firmacraft to work specifically for us. The guys have been approachable, very responsive, very reactive to our needs and our changes, and nothing seems impossible for them to do. Any suggestions we have, or any ideas that we have that we could take Firmacraft to another level, they're all embracing.
It has been incredibly successful. We've enjoyed working with Deacam. We look forward to the future, and we can see that if what they've delivered for us has been so successful, I think it will be groundbreaking for the brewing industry as a whole.
Deacam is an industrial electrical contracting firm. We fit in for customers where They need solutions, and we're able to figure out ways to get them the outcomes that they want. So often our customers know the outcome but don't know how to get there, and we're fantastic at filling in the spaces to enable the outcome.
Giant Steps has been around since 1996, and we've been making wine since the year 2000. As a business, we've been looking at how we are culturally, how we present ourselves, and in our part of the wine industry, which is at the very high end, our customers expect that not only is our viticulture ecologically and environmentally sustainable, so is our winemaking.
Vineyards obviously need irrigation. We really need to drought-proof ourselves against these years that are coming, getting drier and getting warmer. With that water, a vineyard really is just not sustainable. So we had this problem of being able to access enough water to run what's effectively a 80-acre vineyard. We've got a dam that holds about 65, 70 megalitres, but if we get a couple of dry years in a row, the dam doesn't have any water in it. We have a river nearby, and the issue was getting water from that river and 3 kilometres down the pipeline to our dam to basically hold some water for our irrigation supplies. We went to Deacam with this issue, and they came up with a solution, pumping that water 3 kilometres, but also operating it. The power source was obviously a big question mark, and Deacam came up with the option of solar powering it, which we found really exciting because that's really a big part of our business, is not only sustainable as a business but sustainable with the environment. And solar is definitely the way of the future for us.
We were throwing around some ideas about running some pumps for them, and then we started to really look at what they wanted to achieve, and that's a great question. I love asking that of our customers. Really, what's the prize here? What are we trying to achieve? And the idea that they could be pumping water over 3.5 kilometres completely powered by the sun was something that really turned those guys on. So where traditionally electrical contractors would then stop, that's really where we come into our own. So we're able to take that idea, that concept, and then just thrash it out, grind it out, speak with some really good operators. Danny from Sprinkler Fix was instrumental in enabling us to understand the issues of pumping and what was going on there. We were able to bring in our experience with automation, and that's how we really came to work on that project. The guys at Giant Steps knew of our history and some of the jobs that we've done. They knew that we operated outside traditional boundaries for contracting, and that's why they came to us to talk about what was achievable in that space.
As far as the design spec go, we're going to 0.8 to 1 meg, which is basically 800 to 1 million litres of water per day. Now we've only got 10 hours of sun to do that, so the design spec was to get as much solar as we could, the biggest pump we could possibly run off that solar to push as much water as we could up to the top. Not only does it feed the Giant Steps Dam, it feeds Sexton Farms Dam, and it also feeds Treasury Dam, which is part of the Foster's group. So they've all had their own water rights, they've pooled their resources, and Phil's brought it together to unify those vineyards and have a common water supply that we know can be is guaranteed for the future.
It's a really unique spot. That area for the grape that's being produced out of there, that vineyard, I've been told is known around the country as the greatest producer of grapes in the country for that unique area, the way it faces the elevation. And the dam there being so large gives them phenomenal ability to ensure the quality of the product that's coming out of there. The one thing they didn't have was that protection in drought or poor rainfall scenarios. So that's where they started to talk about just pumping water. We'd been involved, and we've won one of the awards for excellence for our work in off-grid, very large battery 3-phase inverter systems. Really it was the idea, the seed of idea that came that we could actually run this pump from solar. So we went away from that and started looking at the ability for solar to run that pump, knowing that a key criteria for Giant Steps was if they could produce that water into that dam with no carbon footprint, that was an absolute winner for them. And they felt that their business was built on ideas of that, and they felt that their customers were discerning enough to be purchasing their wine, understanding that's the way it's been produced.
So the planning of this was a really interesting one because we didn't really know, we knew what we wanted, but we didn't really know how to do it. So we had some technical questions, and we also had some physical and geographical questions we had to sort out.
We've been doing solar pumping now since 2012. We started off with a small range up to 2.2 kilowatts, and over the last, I would say, 3 years we've been going up to anything up to 150 kilowatts.
Deacam came to me with an inquiry for solar, looking at wanting to pump 31,000 meg a year from the Yarra River up to 2 dams. What we came up with was a 22 kilowatt high efficiency permanent magnetic motor.
One thing very interesting with this job is that because the pump is actually so far away from the solar array, that's quite a problem. So most pumps like that with solar need to be very close to where the variable speed drive is. Well, all of the variable speed drive and solar input technology is at the top of a hill, and the pump is at the bottom in a river. There's some 280 metres apart. So there was a lot of engineering that had to go in to make sure that the drive could power the pump that far away. You can go onto iTunes, you can purchase an app for about $5. That app enables that operator to go straight into that touchscreen as if they were standing in front of it. The solar pump infrastructure, now connected and now running, is something to behold. To stand there on a sunny day in one of the most picturesque places in the country and watch that thing operate purely out of the sun's energy is really impressive, and I'm very proud of it. So the statistics of it are that in any one day we're pumping at over 11 litres a second. We're pumping up over 140 metres of head over 3.5 kilometres, and we're doing it for free. We're doing it out of the sun's energy. Now that's superb. That pushes us further to say in the next job, let's do a 37 kilowatt. Let's do an 88 kilowatt pump. Let's see what we can get out of this, because really it's about solar array engineering, and you'll get there.
We're looking at a payback period somewhere around 5 to 6 years, which is extraordinary, really, when you consider that it's met quite a lot of our marketing and cultural objectives as well as meeting the financial objectives. The next stage, which is to take the whole property off the grid, again, the cost benefit there will be payback in 4 to 5 years.
This is the collaboration of great Australian companies with the foresight of people like Phil Sexton, with their vision, with their dream of going off-grid and being environmentally friendly. Deacam have put this all together in a package that is world's best practice. I believe that this will pay off for many years to come.
Deacam has a unique ability to look at problems that are existing and have existed for a number of years in industries that we work around. Our real skill set is being able to look at those, pull them down to areas where we can solve, and grind through outcomes that other businesses in our level of automation simply don't have time to do and not committed as I am to the outcome of it. I can see that by pushing us forward and keeping us at that cutting edge for technology, we're in fact bringing great strength into our brand, enabling the guys that work for us to be part of some fantastic solutions so that they can go forth, as part of Deacam or outside of the business, and keep pushing that Australian innovation so that we don't get left behind. Deacam considers itself partners with the brewing industry here in Australia. We do a lot of different projects. We provide automation control for fermentation and brew kits. We also work on the packaging lines, canning, from bottling to labelling to date coding. And what we've got here at Mornington is a classic example of Deacam being able to think outside of the square to solve a real problem that Mornington was experiencing.
In November of 2017, we ran into a few problems with power. We just bought a centrifuge, and being hotter weather, we also had the glycol system, which cools all the tanks. They were kind of a peak load. So we started blowing fuses, and we didn't really understand why. And so we got Warren from Deacam in, and he did basically an assessment of our electricity needs.
We often talk in brewing about planning for growth, and Mornington is a perfect example of that. So as we were coming into the warmer parts of the year around November and their production had increased, they started to blow fuses for power supply. So what happened is we just basically broke through all of their supply capacity, and it happened very quickly. So as soon as the temperature came on for the summer season and the beer production was up, well, all of a sudden we ran out of power.
The finding was that we were basically at peak load, which means that we've got a capacity of 100 amps into the site, which realistically means they give us about 80. And at times we were hitting 123. So unfortunately we were above what we were being supplied by the grid. The wiring going down from our mains all the way down to our subboards were probably not as set up the way they needed to be. And so we have power coming in, not enough, but we also were feeding it incorrectly down the wire as well. Our glycol system, which controls all the tanks, they have 2 compressors and they have 2 pumps. They only need 1 through winter, but when it needs more, the second pump comes on, the second compressor comes on. So rather than being at 46, 50 amps, it got to about 83 amps. Well, that's our load to our site.
Causing a circuit breaker to trip in a brewery is not as simple as just going and resetting that circuit breaker. There can be a lot of machines running at that time, and power supply to them can be critical. And for here at Mornington Peninsula Brewery, one of the examples was if the centrifuge was running and power was lost, the vacuum within that centrifuge and therefore the process was actually null and void and had to be repeated. So for us to be able to supply Mornington Peninsula Brewery with hard base load power with a lot of reliability was critical to their production. Mornington were exceeding their supply capacity of about 80 amps a phase. And traditionally, in order to increase that, you would need to go and apply for a mains upgrade for the facility, and that can take anywhere between 6 to 18 months to actually get done. So most breweries would rely on a generator there, and a generator is like either a generator or mains solution. The generators very rarely run in parallel with mains, and particularly here for the brewery, that meant that they would be running generator for 24 hours a day, really until March or April when the seasons started to get cooler. But we had an opportunity there where we had a battery, a very large battery set, that we knew would be able to actually blend mains with battery power. And through a fair bit of engineering, we loaded the system here at site and we tuned it and tuned it and tuned it. And now what happens is anything above that 80 amp per phase load for the brewery, we supply out of batteries. And then as soon as the load decreases, we then take that extra out of the capacity of the supply and we charge the batteries up. The batteries really are providing peak load protection for the brewery. We know that there are times this brewery runs as low as 40 amps a phase, and that's often. It's just those peaks that really bring a lot of businesses unstuck, and that's where batteries are fantastic. So this system here forces power in when we need it, and then when we have surplus power within the facility, we then charge the batteries up. There's a backup generator here, so if we have the batteries getting depleted and they need to be charged, we can bring the generator in to do that. But a perfect example of how efficient this system is for the brewery, that generator has never been topped up with diesel. I can tell you that the tank they're supplying, the generator, is still more than half full, and the system's been in for over 8 months now.
It's almost seamless, you know. You might see a little flicker of light, but then it just smooth sailing again. So what it ensured me was a consistent supply of power, so therefore I could make beer, I could package beer, I could keep beer chilled.
This was critical for the brewery. They were in peak demand season, which is coming into summer. They ran out of power, and unless we were able to enact a solution quickly, they were going to lose possibly sales, and they may not recover for those for some months. So we were running shifts down here. We worked right through Saturdays and Sundays, and we transformed this brewery over a matter of, say, 7 to 10 days. We essentially rewired it, and then we connected the battery system and tuned that in and got them running. And it's also important to note that during our installation period, they did not cease production. So we were able to work around them and tailor our jobs to suit what they were doing at the time. So they never stopped production, and within 7 days, they were up and running, and really the system after 10 days was flawless. Batteries have come a long way, and the costs per kilowatt hour are reducing. So we've got a great opportunity now for situations just like this, where we can lean on the technology of batteries and also the reliability of them. There's zero maintenance in these batteries. No one is needed to tune it or to see what's going on after it was initially commissioned. So their ability to provide peak protection for a facility like this is unsurpassed anywhere else. And Australia is a really unique provider of this kind of technology. The systems that we're relying on, which are Selectronic, the inverting systems that we're using, they're made in Churnside Park. They've been building those systems for over 50 years, and they're known as one of the best providers of inverter technology for off-grid applications anywhere in the world. And we've got that within 10 Ks of the Deacam head office.
They simply understand what our business is. They feel as though that they are a true partnership in terms of that win-win. They're very, very reliable, but if things just go the wrong way, we just call them. So whether it be mill or electrical or whatever it is, they've always been first on call.
Deacam loves being a part of the Australian craft brewing industry. Deacam's lucky. We've been part of the Victorian ski resort scene for a long time now. We've grown with a number of resorts as they've added extra technology and extra snowmaking ability. Lake Mountain and Mount Baw Baw reached out to us late last year and said they've purchased a number of ski carpets to aid in the movement of people on the resort, but they needed a team to come in and carry out the installation and the commissioning of those carpets. So that fits perfectly into our existing skill set. We have a number of trades that cut right across between the mechanical installation and obviously the electrical commissioning of those systems. So it was a fantastic opportunity for us to increase our learning and our offering to Victorian ski resorts.
We've got the two Magic carpets, which was the first time we've had carpets of this size, this quality and this length, and one for Frosty and the other one for Big Hill. So Frosty being a dedicated toboggan park, which we hope will improve safety and reduce injuries, and also hold the snow better because people will now come up the carpet and not have to walk back up. And on Big Hill we've got obviously another carpet over there, same length, a little bit narrower, but for our beginner skiers, which is our market. Kids who have just transitioned off the small carpet, off the small rise, onto the larger carpet to just progress towards being able to take on more of the slopes that Baw Baw has to offer.
Working in those environments is tough, particularly Mount Baw Baw and Lake Mountain. They're known for very cold, wet air as opposed to a drier air as the resorts change up through Mount Buller and Mount Hotham and Falls Creek. But Lake Mountain and Mount Baw Baw particularly receive that cold, wet air, and it's quite tough to work in.
We're up at Mount Baw Baw Ski Resort, here to install two Magic carpets, which are a carpet lift for toboggan and ski runs, to return people back to the top of the run. Ran all the power through underground conduits, and we'll be picking up power from the appropriate switchboards. The power runs are the length of, if not longer than, the actual carpets themselves, because the main head unit at the top is where the main power will need to be. Yeah, the difficulties are, I guess, environmental, as in weather. The soft and boggy ground makes it difficult to get machinery access. Also for alignments of the carpets on uneven ground.
We have a telehandler as part of our site installation equipment. It's a fantastic device, and the number of attachments and the ability to get it into tight spots means it's a perfect piece of equipment for installations such as carpets like we did at Lake Mountain and Mount Baw Baw.
Our experience with Deacam has been very, very positive. I think Warren and Brendan are great leaders of that company. I can only say after being 35 years in an oil and gas construction job, there is good operators, they're friendly, they're cooperative, they work on the partnership type arrangement, on relationship type arrangement. They have responded to every one of our requests in expediently quick time. I don't think without Deacam we would be getting anywhere near the success that we're about to achieve with these carpet, and especially with the late delivery, which is nothing we can do about, but we're right on the critical path now of getting them in, and they're here, they're doing a great job and good to work with.
The installation of the carpets had to occur over a very tight timeline. They arrived only a week prior to the start of the season, so we had to be extra efficient at making sure that we got all of the carpets installed. And I can say now that we installed 5 carpets in 7 days across 2 different states. All 5 carpets are up and running, so that's 2 at Mount Baw, 2 at Lake Mountain and 1 carpet at Corran Forest, which is up in the ACT. All of those carpets have been commissioned and are running. Luckily for all the resorts, the season has started with a nice dump of snow last week, so the carpets are being well used.
Oh, we really want people to understand that it's a great beginner mountain. I started here in the early 70s. We talk about creating memories, lasting memories. My memories as a very young person, I hope that people get when they come up to a place like Mount Baw. We're very happy for them to continue on to the other mountains as I did. Maybe even go overseas and continue to enjoy the alpine experience in such a unique environment. Baw is a fantastic place in terms that it has species of plants and animals up here that are not found anywhere else in the Victorian Alps. So it's not just a place for skiing, it's a place to appreciate. And I think as you grow older, you start to realise it is one of those unique places that we need to preserve.
The existing toboggan slopes at Lake Mountain and Mount Baw are well patronised. So if you go there through school holidays or even in the middle of the week, there's a lot of people on those toboggan runs. And what it means is that naturally people get to the bottom and they start walking back up. So there's a lot of pedestrians walking up the centre of that toboggan run. So those 2 resorts could see a real advantage in getting people to the top, but also getting them channels so that they're traversing back to the top of the toboggan run off to the side rather than straight up the centre. So by having a ski carpet there that they can stand on and get transported up, it means that they can control the flow of pedestrians on those toboggan runs safely.